This is Vivian, and I have a story to tell you today. It's the first of many stories that I will be telling, and it's about my friend William, who was nice enough to tell me his story. Let's hear how he fell in love and then faced some real drama that he sure didn't see coming. Hello, I'm William, 36 years old, and this is my love story. When I was 33, the stunningly beautiful recovering alcoholic that I had met at the young adult leaders group and been casually dating for a few weeks had kicked me to the curb. Life felt kind of dull, so one night I was dinking around on several dating websites. After a few drinks, I realized that there was nothing really interesting there, so I checked out the selection of Craigslist before going to bed. And there it was, a short note from Harmony, who was looking for an intelligent guy to keep her company as she had tickets to a concert and no one to go with. She didn't sound flirtatious, more like stated it out, that she is fine with having a glass of wine before the concert, but that would be it. She seemed well educated and interesting, so I went and messaged her. We exchanged a few messages during the night and exchanged pics. And the next morning she said that she would be okay with me coming. When I saw her in the evening, she looked exactly like in the pic she had sent. So I appreciated her honesty. She wasn't my type, but pretty in her own way. Really short hair, no makeup, glasses, and oddly enough, clothes that my grandmother would have wanted. As I'm not much of a looker myself, her modest appearance did not bother me. Don't get me wrong, I always take good care of myself and I love smart outfits. But the best way to describe me is a slightly overweight, nerdy introvert, which rarely equals to a strikingly handsome alpha male. So we had the wine and talked about our lives. She seemed really interested in what I had to say, which felt good. It had been quite a while since someone had genuinely listened to me. We actually missed the concert as we got caught in the conversation. Our first date lasted for 12 hours. No, we sure didn't have sex, not even a kiss. We just talked. First we were in the bar, and then continued talking in my car. She told me that she had done lots of drugs in the past, but had quit after becoming a devoted Christian, and that her religion meant the world to her. I then told her that I was a devoted atheist and had no interest in changing that. Back then, I was actually running a conversation group for local young atheists, so you can imagine that I had thought about my relationship with spiritual matters a lot. And in addition, my family is a hardcore Catholic one, so it hadn't been easy to choose the path that I had chosen, but I knew that it was the right one for me. So, against all odds, we started dating. We were so drawn to each other that even though her religion didn't really allow her to, we made love on our third date. Harmony claimed that she ate pills and hated condoms, so we didn't use any extra protection. Then, 2 days later, she came to my place in tears and said that she had lied to me that night about contraception, but had now gone to see a doctor and get the morning after pill to prevent a pregnancy, as I had been very clear from the start about not wanting any kids. That was the first time I had a weird feeling about her, but I shrugged it off and continued to get to know her better. The next few months were amazing. Harmony was so sweet to me that she made herself feel irreplaceable in no time. She cooked for me, took care of my clothes, was eager to take trips with me, and she listened to me. That felt so good, as I had always been kind of an outcast and had to become quite verbose just to be recognized in social scene. I am not sure at what point she moved in, because it just happened so smoothly that I never saw a moving truck or boxes full of her things. One day I just realized that she hadn't been to her apartment for weeks, and when I asked about it, she said that she had given it up for financial reasons. I was really surprised and told her that I wished that she would have talked to me about it, but she kept appealing to the economic side of me, and in the end I had to admit that her reasoning made sense. Harmony kept telling me that I was her best friend, and it started to feel like I had finally won too. According to her, she couldn't live without me because I was the kindest, most thoughtful, and most successful guy she had ever fallen for. I didn't doubt that for a second, knowing how she had been mistreated by her exes. I loved coming home to her. It was really nice to have company during evenings, and during nights she was willing to please me in all possible ways. She also allowed me to do the same to her, which made her sexually very attractive to me. Then the first meltdown happened. I came home to find her crying on the floor. When she was finally able to talk, she explained that her church didn't want her live in sin and would not support and finance her grad school unless she got married. I had never wanted to get married, so that sounded quite alarming to me, especially when I had no idea about her wanting to go back to school. We talked about it, and her endless tears melted my heart. I couldn't stand to see her cry, so I went and proposed to her right there and then. I didn't want to be married, but I didn't want her to have to give up her dreams because of me either. We got married in 3 weeks. It was November. I had known for 4.5 months, and her church agreed to be her sponsor if she was accepted to the grad school program. Next April, we moved across the country so Harmony could start her studies. At that point, it was clear that the financial support given by the church wasn't enough to cover the costs of her schooling, and that I would have to finance them from my savings. I didn't really mind at that point, as I was really proud of her. I gave up my job, well, I hated it anyway, and became a software engineering consultant. I enjoyed that, but I didn't like the fact that I had to lease out a house that I had built a couple of years earlier. Moving from my dream house to a student housing was quite a shock, but at least the rent was affordable. Harmony's studies brought up a new side of her. Her work was what mattered, mine didn't. She had never been very social, but in no time she was in bad terms with most of the other students because she didn't accept their less conservative ways of understanding the Bible. The girl I had gotten to know was compassionate and loving, but this version of her started condemning all kinds of minorities to hell. That wasn't the only change, though. A few weeks after the start of the program, she started talking more and more about two things: wanting to have a family and wanting to spend more time with her advisor, who also was the head of the church and the director of the program she was in. For a married man, plus 5 kids, he sure had a lot of time to spend with his students. What bothered me a lot too was that her interests in traveling, even small trips, was completely gone. She refused to take any trips with me, even though she knew how much they meant to me. At least twice a week she had meltdowns during which she threatened to leave grad school. She repeatedly asked me why I was with her and wanted me to reassure her about my love, and each time, when I finally did, she announced that she was going to divorce me. I quickly learned to hide the hurt that her words caused, because that seemed to reduce the amount of threats. It broke my heart to see her like that. Things weren't that great in bed either. The sex itself was amazing, but she only wanted it during her ovulation. Nights after nights I explained that I did not want to have any children, and as many times as she said, she would change my mind. She wanted to become a mother, no matter what I thought of it. I would only get laid if I agreed not to use a condom. I couldn't do that, as I knew for sure that kids weren't my thing. So in peace and quiet, I went and got my tubes snipped. I needed to be certain that I wouldn't produce any offspring. I can't say that I didn't feel guilty about doing it in secret, so I decided to tell her after she had done a month-long internship in Europe. Before Harmony's trip to Europe, I found myself to be in a situation that was unbearable. I paid for everything but didn't get anything in return. No more cuddles, conversations, meals, trips, or sex. Instead, a wife whose needs I could not fulfill. When I found out that her relationship with her advisor was more than professional, it was time for me to go. That being an unfortunate thing in itself, the way I figured it all out was just horrible. One day I had decided to surprise her with flowers while I knew she was at school. I had asked a fellow student that had been to our place to study with Harmony where she was, and I was directed towards her advisor's office, which was in the back of the chapel. What I saw stunned me and made me drop the flowers right at the doorway. I witnessed her being on her knees in front of her advisor. She was going down on him eagerly. After all the denial of sex to me, just to give it to him so willingly, that was the last straw. Long story short, I filed for a divorce, got locked out of the apartment, lost all my belongings, including my clothes and work laptops, couldn't get them back even with the police escorting me to the apartment because she barricaded the door, and I drove across the country just to get away from her. During the few days that it took me to get there, she bombarded my family on Facebook, claiming that I was suicidal and should be reported to the police. Fortunately, my family called me first, and I was able to calm them down. I had no interest in harming myself, or anyone else for that matter. I was just sad about how things had ended. Harmony's last contact to me was an envelope that she sent to my parents. She had decided to rip my passport apart, so she sent me the remains of it. 6 months later, I heard from my lawyer that Harmony had given birth to twins. To my surprise, the father wasn't her advisor, but a fellow student with whom she apparently was in good terms. She tried to get me marked as the father, but it was easy to prove that she was wrong. I don't regret loving Harmony. I learned a lot about myself and why I eventually fell for her. I thought we were in love. I always felt that I had no idea what love was, but that I could learn to love her if I tried hard enough. And I knew for sure that her companionship was something that I enjoyed a lot. It wasn't our religious views that separated us, we just wanted different things in life. I should have never married a person I had only known for a few months, but back then I couldn't see that. I sometimes still miss the good times we had. So that was William and his story. We'll see if we'll hear more about him later. I have a feeling that we will. However, I'm really interested in stories that haven't been told yet, because listening to others is one of the things that make me get up in the morning. So if you want me to tell your story, please send it to the email address you'll see in the description box below. If you enjoyed listening to me, don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe, as there will be more videos and stories soon. Thank you for listening to this story, and have a great day.